What's our last one?
That is, in fact, my pick of 2014's The Maze Runner. This is an adaptation of the book series, of course, following us through the first book, The Maze Runner. Anyways, the basic plot synopsis is we've got our main character. He's going up some elevator, and he lands inside of this like big grove, in which he is immediately clowned on by a bunch of people, and he's very confused about what's going on. He then figures out that there is a massive maze that they're all stuck in, and they're like in the center part of the maze. There are people called runners that are going out into the maze to try to find more information and figure out how to get out of said maze. There are also monsters called grievers, I think is what they call them, that are roaming the maze.
With a G.
Grievers? Yeah, that's what
Grievers.
I said. Yeah, don't worry. I was also mistaking it whether or not they're saying grievers or reavers throughout the movie. Reavers would sound a lot cooler than grievers, in my opinion. But yeah, no, and the grievers will sting them, and that'll make them go crazy and want to kill people, so they have to like sentence them to death. Anyways, the main character guy, there's like one big head honcho of the camp that everybody really likes. He gets stung, and while another runner's trying to bring him back into the camp, the doors close because they close at nighttime for the maze to like move around and shift and all that shit. And he runs out there into the maze to try to help him get back in. They're unsuccessful on that, and then they have to attempt to survive a night in the maze, which they do. Him and the runner end up even killing a griever. They come back with this information. They save the guy. He goes to get medical treatment. They then go and find the body of that griever. There's like a tracking device thing in it that they use, and then in which they go out later into the maze. They find where that tracking device is pointing them, which happens to be like some big spooky hole. They come back, main character guy gets fucking kicked out of the camp, bunch of people band up with him to all like leave and go and try to find what's going on. Oh yeah, I forgot there's also the part where the fucking doors don't close at night, so the grievers come in and just murder a bunch of people. And this happens after they get like kicked out, I guess because the people thought that he was like the cause of that happening. So yeah, they go out into the maze with like a big group of them to try and find that hole that they previously found. They get there, there's like a big fight with all the grievers. They get into the hole, and it's like this lab where a bunch of people are dead. And they get some like lore dump about what's going on. And then they get picked up by a bunch of people that supposedly quote unquote rescue them. And then the movie ends.
Yeah, so I definitely think this is by far the best film that we saw this week.
That's fair. I also thought this was a great movie. I definitely wanted to see this movie for a very long time, and it stands to show that this would have been a very nice movie to watch that I've never seen. I think I own all of them.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I'm saying unfortunately because I own them and haven't seen them.
Okay. I think this is a very competently done film. This obviously came out at a time where teen dystopian movies were all the rage.
Yes, sir. They were a dime a dozen.
Hunger Games.
This one I think is probably the most interesting out of all of them.
Yeah, I read all the books for this series, and I really liked them personally. I was big into them teen dystopian dramas back in the day, and I gotta say, Maze Runner was probably my favorite amongst them.
I would agree with that as well.
I think I read the first two books, but I literally do not remember a fucking thing. I know I read them. I don't remember a fucking thing.
Yeah, I remember basically nothing from them as well. It's like little tidbits here and there, like big set pieces. I'm like, oh yeah, that happens at some point, and that's about it.
Right.
But as far as the actual movie goes...
Honestly, I don't have a ton to say about this movie. It's a very straightforward and competently done, like, adventure mystery thing. The only real complaint I have is I wish the ending wasn't so blatantly sequel bait, you know?
Yeah.
I wish we got a bit more closure on the ending, but that's kind of all I have for it.
But in that same vein, like, when you guys go to watch movies, would you prefer a movie to end and not expect a sequel, or would you, like you said, there's this movie... Okay.
Yeah. I prefer every movie to be self-contained.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if there happens to be sequels, like, oh, how are they gonna continue off the last story kind of thing?
I think there's good writing practices you can do where you're leaving those drops of mystery and stuff throughout the movie, which would want to entice people to want more, regardless of them baiting you into that in the end anyways.
Yeah.
Like, I think this movie had plenty going for it just in and of itself without needing, the fucking ending. to really like force it.
Yeah.
Like really, here's all you have to do for this movie for it to have a not sequel baity ending, in my opinion. Literally, instead of having the army guys come and grab him in the lab, they see the lab, it's weird, and they're like, well, let's go. And then door opens and it's blinding white, and you don't see anything, and then it fades to black. And then at the beginning of the next movie, they get grabbed by people.
Yeah.
Akin to Cube 1, if you will.
Yeah, akin to Cube 1, if you will.
Yeah.
I will say, I do really like this movie. I had a lot of enjoyable aspects of this movie. I thought it was very realistic. The CGI on the Grievers was
Wait. What do you mean by realistic?
Realistic in the terms of, like, they didn't just pull random shit out of their ass, like, oh, I don't know why that person's all of a sudden able to do this thing or that thing, or why this situation happened this way.
Gotcha,
like when they were fighting
sure.
the Grievers. When they
like
were fighting
they
the Grievers,
don't break the rules of physics, you mean?
Yeah, like when they're fighting Grievers, like the part that Jackson was telling us about where, like, oh, the doors didn't close and all the Grievers invade. Like, I think all of us were like, all right, like, somehow these people are all gonna survive, right? Yeah, no, like, people are just dying left and right. Like, it's exactly what you'd expect from this part, where these are, like, obviously apex predator creatures, and they're gonna kill any opportunity they find. I liked how they were able to develop character in what seemed like a short period of time, at least to me. Like I was saying, the CGI and the Grievers I didn't think was too bad. I thought it was good for this movie. I
didn't think the Grievers looked that good.
I thought they were fine. It was also a majority of the time, except for when they were about to escape, it was also at night. So I know you guys talk about CGI having a difference based on the time of day.
No, it's just that it's harder to see things that look bad if it's dark.
Yeah.
That's what it was, because I think it was when we were talking about the mist or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I definitely preferred if they, didn't show the Grievers off so much. Have them be the sort of like looming threat where you just get like little glimpses here and there of what they really are.
Yeah, I thought during the actual like invasion they looked a little better.
Yeah. But yeah, and then we had the introduction of the female character. For some reason, all she remembers is the one guy.
Jackson had a major issue with her, by the way.
She is kind of pointless, isn't she?
That's not the major issue. This might be going off the rails a little bit here, but this also isn't really a major issue. I just think it's funny how, like, obvious the implication would be, or the implication is, but, like, it's just never addressed. I think Tanner knows what I'm talking about. He's giving me a little
implication.
Okay, so we've got, like, a grove of a bunch of teenage guys, right? They're all a bunch of teenage guys who've been in there for like a couple of years, even for some of them. And then a single girl gets sent up the elevator with a note saying, "This is the last one." What the fuck do you think that implies?
That's what I was just thinking.
Obvious. Like this, like from my perspective.
Wait. Okay, are you saying you think they sent up more girls before her?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying this is a bunch of guys, and they're setting up a girl for one specific reason. But they, like, obviously, why would they address that? And that's not what the actual, like, intention of sending her up there was. But I just think it's funny how, like, obvious the implication is.
Gang rape.
I will say, this is making me realize a reasonable complaint, which is that a major thing that is lost in translating the book into this movie is that the girl is pointless. She doesn't do anything. I remember her, like, existing for a reason in the book. I don't remember what the reason is, but I do remember her character having a point. She doesn't do jack shit this entire film, and there's no reason for her to be sent in there at all.
Yeah, she's literally just there to, like, expand on the lore of it all. Mm-hmm. And speaking of that lore, I think it's really heavy-handed the way they do it with, like, the very clear flashbacks and the guy's memories about what's going on when he's sleeping and stuff. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's probably better ways they could have done that. It was really blatant about it.
I mean, with the fact that these characters all had amnesia, I feel like there wasn't really too much you could have done outside of that. Like, I don't know what avenues you could have approached that were outside of the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind remembers everything, whether or not the conscious mind can...
I mean, they could have just framed the memories a little bit more mysteriously when they're doing it.
They were kind of repeating, but
could have obscured it a bit more, you know.
Yeah, but yeah. Did any of you guys have a favorite character for this movie? I'm only asking because I had a favorite character for this movie.
Not really.
No, honestly.
Oh, well, all right. Never mind then.
I mean, who was your favorite character?
It was the one Asian guy who was the veteran maze runner. I thought he was pretty cool. I liked him.
I remember liking him in the books.
Oh, that's good, I guess.
He dies at some point. Don't get too attached to him.
Don't tell me that, god damn it.
All right, guys.
I'll tell you what, Dylan. Almost every character dies in the books.
I can imagine. This is very much a Divergent Hunger Games era movie, so it does not surprise me too much.
I think there are
so
like
like
2
you
characters
mentioned that
in this
earlier.
film who actually make it to the end.
Yeah, there actually is one major flaw, but not with this movie, but with this series as well, specifically this adaptation. So I picked this movie for 2 reasons.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
One because, or I put it on my list for 2 specific reasons. One because, obviously, I had read the books previously and I was interested in seeing the adaptation because I'd seen it previously but I didn't remember anything about it. And 2, because there was one very specific scene in the books that I really wanted to see get adapted to a movie, because that was like frankly, the only thing that really stuck out to me about this entire series. And that was the scene in, it's the second book that is shown, so it's fair that's not in this movie, where they're traveling through some like dark tunnel, and there are these like metallic ball things that basically latch onto people's heads, and then it just like cuts their heads clean off.
Awesome.
Like basically, yeah, how it's framed is really cool too. Like they're running through this dark tunnel. Suddenly they can't hear somebody talking anymore. They like reach out into the darkness to try to like find where they are, and they find their body, but there just isn't any head there. And then they figure out that the head's like on the ground because it was, cut clean off, and it's just a fucking metal sphere now. That part is fucking horrifying. It's really, really well done, I think. And it's not fucking adapted into the movies. I went and watched the first part of the second movie, and it's not in there. That shit pissed me off. That was like the only reason I wanted to even continue this series. It's not, dude. It's not. I looked it up. It's just not adapted into the movies.
Tragic.
Maybe they thought it'd be too gruesome.
Maybe. I think it's fucking stupid, because that was like the only reason I wanted to continue this. So I'm not going to be picking the Scorch Trials. One of you guys can pick up that if you guys want to.
I probably will at some point. What was this movie even
Is there a
rated?
third one?
Feel like...
Yeah, there are 3 movies.
The Death Cure.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. This movie reminds me of one other thing, but it's a very small portion of the movie, and you guys won't know what I'm talking about, so...
Say it anyway.
It's an SCP thing. It has a lot to do with end-of-the-world circumstances and the sun and all that. It just happened to remind me of this.
Okay.
SCPs are gay! Dylan, what's your rating for this movie?
I really enjoyed this movie. I didn't have any issues with it. I'm giving this movie an S.
Whoa! Tanner looks fucking bewildered right now. Downright baffled by that answer. Tanner, what are you giving this one?
S is a tad high. It's a competently done adventure film. Like I mentioned, I don't like the sequel baity ending, and the girl being useless, like, I think is a pretty massive oversight. Again, it's competently done. I don't think it particularly exceeds in any areas. So I'm gonna give this one... I'll give it a B+.
Whoa.
Fair enough, dude. And I'm thinking a B for me personally. A B feels about right. Jackson, how about you?
I also gave it a B.
There we go.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's an all right movie overall. I don't think there's anything that crazy going on. And yeah, that puts it at an A-.
I will say, Jackson, this movie is in fact rated PG-13, so I would imagine having kids decapitated by metal spheres is probably not in the cards for this movie.
I mean, they could have done like a show not tell kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guess so.
They are in the darkness the entire scene.
I suppose.
And there we go.
Alright.
Yeah, that was in fact by a pretty decent margin the best movie we had seen this
Yeah.
according to the tier list.
According to you guys, maybe.